Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Daniel, and today in this video we'll be covering a chess.com training game I played recently. So I was playing the white pieces, and let's take a look at what happened. So here d4, f5, here my opponent goes for the Dutch defense, c4, e6, bishop to b4, knight f3, knight f6, and bishop to g5, pinning this knight to the queen, similar to what my opponent is doing here. Castles and bishop captures on f6. So in the Dutch defense, there is a variation called the Stonewall with d6 and c6, and then basically black tries to lock up the center and then plant their knight onto e4 and play g5 and attack on the king side. So here bishop to g5, basically the purpose is to straight up just eliminate this knight, so there is no knight to e4 and g4 g5 ideas. Queen takes and e6, or e3 sorry, and then here I simply develop our pieces, castles, knight e2, and here my opponent's trying to attack on the king side here, still even without the knight, with the queen, the bishop, as well as probably the knight in the future, and maybe the rook. And so here I'm trying to like lock up the center a little bit so that this bishop can be counteracted. Here rook a to e8, and here you'll see I lock up the center here, and after f4 the center is completely locked. And so this bishop is going to have a hard time trying to get into the game. The bishop did reroute to c8 to try to get on this diagonal. However, there are currently no entry squares. Here I play knight b3, which is actually a blunder. Better here would have been to simply play the move a4, which is my plan after knight b3 to play a5. Because I guess the knight being on b3, it's a little bit offside. The knight does prefer to sort of defend this type of closed structure here, because this bishop doesn't really do well sitting behind all of these pawns. So however, in the game I did play knight b3, g5, which makes sense. Black's plan attack on the king side. Here I play a4, knight f6, and a5. So I'm trying to generate some counterplay on the queen side a little bit, while black tries to generate an attack on the king side. Here g4, I take, pawn takes, and here I play rook a8. My idea is to maybe play rook a7 and create enough like substantial counterplay so that black has to worry about the queen side and can't solely focus on the attack. So queen to g7, here I play king h8, so that, because if I don't play king h8, then I have to take with the queen, and this allows the bishop to be reintroduced into the game. Like for example, if I play a move like, let's say rook a2, then here after pawn takes and queen takes, then here there is bishop to g4, allowing basically the bishop back into the game. After something like knight h5, there is the idea of playing f3 at some point, or even jumping your knight into g3 with the queen on h6 to deliver checkmate. Like for example, in some variations, like say I can't take with the queen and this queen was on h6, then there is like queen h2 ideas. So here, however, instead of letting this happen, here I just play king h8, king h1. My opponent plays king h8 as well. Rook to g8, and here I double up on the queen side. My idea is to maybe play rook a7 and attack this queen and create some counterplay. So pawn takes, and bishop to h3. Here I play queen f2. My idea is to play bishop f1 and basically challenge this bishop here on this h3 square. Knight to h5. Here I play bishop f1, and here my opponent jumps in with the move knight to g3, which is actually a blunder. In fact, actually in this position, black's actually completely winning. However, in this game, I'm basically trying to show how even if you're losing, you try to find the best moves in the position, because you never know when your opponent will try to do something and actually end up blundering, like my opponent did in this game. Knight to g3 check here wasn't good, because after h takes and h takes, here I found the best move in the position, actually the only move, which is the move queen to d2. Any other move would allow the move g2 check, and then at which point white would lose, because then after king h2 there's simply queen to g3. Here I'd also consider the move queen g1, however I figured this was losing after the move queen h6, at which point after this bishop moves, then basically it's really hard to defend the king, especially this h2 square where the queen will try to land and infiltrate on. So here I play queen d2. This also prevents queen h6, and also prevents the move queen to g5, which was another move I was worried about, because black might try to want to use a different square to access the h5. So here my opponent plays queen to d7. The idea is like after bishop takes, on the next move, they're trying to slip in with the queen combined with the rook here coming to the h file. However, here I find the best move in the position, queen to h6. The idea here is that now I take control of the h file. I'm also counterattacking this bishop, and now there is ideas of playing like rook a7 and trying to get mate on h7. So takes, here rook to g6, and here I find the only move, queen to h5. If I go queen back to d2, this allows queen h3 check, and after king g1, g2 can be played, at which point my opponent is going to go queen h1 and basically win. And I also can't play something like queen h4, trying to maintain on h3, because then there is the move queen to g7, and now rook h6 is threatened, pinning the queen to my king. And if I play king g2, then after rook h6 and queen captures on g3, there is rook back to g6, still pinning the queen to my king, at which point I would be losing. So it's imperative that I play the move queen to h5 here. The idea is basically I'm x-ray attacking this rook on e8, and you'll see later on why it's important I play queen h5. After queen to g7 and king to g2, now there is no rook h6 and this boomerang technique against this g3 pawn, because now this rook on e8 is hanging. So after queen captures on e8, queen to g8, queen takes, and king takes, then I can simply win this pawn, and here I'm up a rook as well as a knight. In fact, actually, my opponent did end up falling for this with rook h6 and queen captures on e8. Just to highlight another variation, if black moves their rook first, then now I have the move rook h1. And now you can't play rook h6 because now I have two defenders against the square. Queen takes, and rook takes, and I'm able to win and corral this pawn, and basically win this pawn, and at which point there would be no threat for black, and I'm simply up a knight and a rook, and I should be completely winning. So after rook to h6, I play queen captures on e8, and here I assume my opponent misclicked with queen f8, at which point here my opponent resigned, because queen captures on f8 is simply checkmate. So what to say about this game? So firstly, out of the opening and into the middle game, I was definitely losing. That's clear. So I definitely have to work on basically countering the Dutch as well as some Stonewall related things. However, I did manage to fight back. So it's very important that, like, even if you are losing or if you're worse, it's important to still continually try to find the best moves in the position, because you can never know what happens. Like when my opponent played the move knight to g3 check earlier on here. So right here, knight to g3 check. So this is sort of the things that you have to look for. You have to constantly put pressure on your opponent so that at some point they might snap and make a mistake, and at which point you're able to capitalize and basically change your position in order to make sure you can maybe like survive better, or even potentially, like in this game, end up winning the game. So hope you all enjoyed this game, and thanks for watching.